I see what I can do. I'm a woman. It's including but not limited to being underrated. Y'all can never cut me loose. I'm every woman. You know we ain't gonna lose. Empower others who happen to be born like me. Educate each other. That way we can all be free. Include the elegance. Now we fucking naturally eradicate oppression. We're taking up his finally. It's a ladies' world. We're painting the whole town pink. It's a ladies' world. Don't care what you wanna think. We're painting towers by it. We will not sit inside. It's a ladies' world. Sign it and permanently. We can do anything that we set our minds to. Unpredictable, don't know what I just might do. Over mountains into valleys we can travel. We've been fighting over any obstacle. Taking back tiaras in our global kingdom. Leaving passion in our wake because it's a ladies' world. We're painting the whole town pink. It's a ladies' world. Don't care what you wanna think. We're painting towers by it. We will not sit inside. It's a ladies' world. Sign it and permanent it. Now I see what I can do. I'm a woman. It's including but not limited to being underrated. Y'all can never cut me loose. I'm every woman. You know we ain't gonna lose. Empower others who happen to be born like me. Educate each other. That way we can all be free. Include the elegance. Now we fucking naturally eradicate oppression. We're taking up his finally. It's a ladies' world. We're painting the whole town pink. It's a ladies' world. Don't care what you wanna think. We're painting towers by it. We will not sit inside. It's a ladies' world. Sign it and permanently. We can do anything that we set our minds to.
The VLM Talk Show, coming to you every first Sunday of the month. Join Edem, AC, Juliet, and Amelia for some exciting girl chats and educational sessions. Sit still and enjoy the show.
Now we've all gonna naturally eradicate depression. We're taking our place finally. It's a ladies' world.
The story is told about a young boy who had to endure watching his mom undress before him every day. This child had to watch his mom do the undressing and the dressing up right in front of him. It got to a point the boy wanted to try out how it would feel like to have his mom's body. So at the age of 18, the mom undressed before him as usual, and then he went behind his mom and then had sex with the mom. Child abuse is on different angles, and we face it every day. It's a very sensitive topic that people would usually shy away from. We know the society in which we live in, and we know how people are stigmatized when they come out to say they've been abused. Child abuse is in different forms, and my panelists and I are going to discuss into details what child abuse is and how to identify perpetrators and many other issues. Stay tuned and keep glued to your seats.
The VLM Talk Show.
Hello, lovely viewers. It's another edition of the VLM Talk Show. It's supposed to be an exciting show, but it's going to be a bit sensitive. This is because we are going to talk about child abuse. My name is Adam, and with me are
Amazing.
Amelia.
I'm Juliet.
In recent times, we've had so many reports all over the globe. We've had some from Nigeria, and then we've had some from Ghana. Children are suffering from so many forms of abuses, and it's making them have challenges in their growth stages. And as parents ourselves, we are going to go into details how we can identify some of these perpetrators, how we can deal with some of these challenges, and how we can together make the children have a safe environment to grow in. Juliet.
Yes, Adam.
Child abuse. Two words put together. We know who a child is. We know what abuse is. From your opinion, what do you think child abuse is?
I would say child abuse is physical violence towards a child. And that's what I would see from an adult to a child, where a child is being abused. If you said in a sentence or in a short, I would just say some emotionally, physically, sexually. You can count it here and there. Some are not sexually abused, but they are indirectly abused because they can openly come out to say what they are going through. So we're not able to identify. So anything that makes a child not to be able to respond to some things and be quiet because he sees himself at the point of being the child and the adult is in charge and cannot fight back, that means that child is being abused. If you're not happy about something, yet you can voice it out. That's what I think.
Melia, what's your take on the issue?
Yes, to add to what Juliet said, I think child abuse is any form of maltreatment to a child, either through action or even at times there's no action.
Yeah.
But, once the child is going through trauma because of your actions or because of your behavior, that's child abuse.
Thank you, Amelia. We've all been children before. We can all cite instances when we felt abused in a way that we cannot describe. Essie, there are forms of abuse.
Well, there's emotional abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, like you said, the list of physical abuse where but the parent or anybody, caretaker abuses a child physically, where you see unexplained bruises, or sometimes the child will withdraw. That's emotional abuse, and they don't know what to say because they are afraid of coming out and not being believed, because these kind of things are not supposed to happen in our society. So I think child abuse mostly got to do with the mental health of the child.
Yeah.
Because if you're abusing the child physically, you're messing with the child's mind as well.
Yeah. So would you say our society hasn't played a great role in trying to reduce this child abuse situations? Because I think from what you said, society plays a role, but then the role it plays rather increases the child abuse rates.
Yes.
So in your, what do you think, Julia, what do you think society can do? What can we do to help reduce this rates of child abuse?
I'll first talk of the one form, which is neglect. If we tend to neglect their emotions, it can also cause that. I always tell people that every child can have love, but not all child can have affection. Now, when it comes to children that lives with people, or a step parent, let me call that way, you see your half siblings hugging their moms, but your mom is not available, so you don't even get that chance to hug the other parents. So neglect, where people think, okay, that's not my child, after I give him food and I make sure he goes to school and all that, so that's enough, and I pay his fees and all that. It goes beyond that. The way you're able to give your child affection, it draws them closer to you, so that when they're physically abused, they can openly come to you. And I tell you, every child who is abused communicates it in a way, and even though they don't say it loud, they have a way they communicate it. But because you don't have affection towards that child, you're not able to recognize or identify it. That is one of the things that I think that is causing it. And then bad parenting.
Okay.
Bad parenting.
Back to what you just said, you made mention that what we always have in mind when it comes to child abuse is mostly we think it comes from step parents, but we have parents, I mean, real biological parents who infringe pain, who infringe all these abuses on their children.
That's where bad parenting comes in.
Bad parenting, so if the child is not supposed to, can't talk to you.
Especially with neglect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If the child can't talk to you, a child can be abused anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The teacher can abuse a child.
That brings us to the abuse, how to identify abusive persons. Mostly we think when we are more concerned about physical looks, so the person is in stature, the person comes and shouts, hey, do this, don't do that. We think the person is an abusive person. But there are people that are very subtle in their ways, but then indirectly they are abusing your child. People that you trust, people, how do you identify abusive persons? I'm a child. Esi, tell me the signs I have to look out for. I'm a parent. This is the first time I'm hearing about such a sensitive topic.
Mm-hmm.
How do I orient my child to identify who an abusive person is?
It's difficult.
First of all, communication is paramount. So
Okay.
you have to be able to talk to your child. And you have to give your child that assurance that when they come back from school, or even at the gate, they can come and tell you, hey, mommy, somebody touched me here. Is that a good thing? You told me so and so. Educate your child. No matter how young the child is. Now they're raping 2-3-year-olds.
That comes to the sex education issue.
Yes, it comes to 2-3-year-olds. How can you rape a 2-3-year-old? You have to explain to them as a mom or as an individual. You don't necessarily have to be a mom, because a child will probably be even closer to the auntie or the mom's friend.
Or teacher.
Yes, or a teacher. So the child should be able to express themselves. So they look at you and they're like, okay, hey, this man, what is he doing? He's showing me affection. This is a bit too much. Mommy, he brought me candy. What do I do? Or mommy, you know what I'm saying? You have to let them know that if somebody touches you somewhere where you don't like it, in any way you feel uncomfortable, mentally, physically, it's abuse. You have to openly be able to think and say, even if the child is not even aware, the fact that he or she's telling you about this kind of thing, you have to watch the circumstance and the situations to know whether, okay, is this person dangerous or not. So I think that's how you can find out.
So people showing extreme concern
About, yes.
about your child.
You have
should
to.
Be,
Decision.
you should pay attention.
Especially if it's the opposite sex.
Okay.
And sometimes it's the same sex.
It's the same
too.
sex.
That is
but
what I'm
we
going to
have
say.
Sometimes it's the same
are
sex.
doing it to your
Oh,
daughters
yes,
and your
yes.
homes and all that.
Surprisingly, all these people who abuse our children are the ones closer to the family.
The one the family trusts most.
We trust them and then we think we can leave our children in their
Here are the
care.
top search
We
results.
tend to hurt them instead of showing much love. So we should rather pay much attention to such people. People who come to our homes with much care, they show or they pay particular attention to the particular child of yours. You really have to pay attention to it. Keep an eye. At times it could be genuine, but at times we just have to be careful.
Yeah, and I think as parents also, we have friends that we do share certain moments with. So I think from such moments, somebody can pass a comment, and then you can easily tell that this person is dangerous when the
character
person
traits.
is in the company of my child. So we need to pay attention to the people around us, and then we need to pay attention to the places we expose our children to. I have heard about a couple of issues where male teachers in junior high schools have expressed extreme feelings for the girls they teach.
I think
It happens.
for me, I think a lot of girls have gone through it. You always have this
Male teacher.
the male teacher who is probably not that much older than you, doing his national service, coming as a teacher assistant. I've had an instance where a parent was actually complaining about the teacher, the teacher, because the teacher was so close to the child, and this child was 5, 6, and the child will go home and the child is crying, "I want my teacher."
Whoa.
Yeah. Then the mom
That's
would
serious.
be like, I don't
kind of
understand
attachment is that?
why is there such a strong bond that if my child is at home on a weekend,
She still cries for
he said
you.
he's crying for the female teacher.
No. You know,
What is the teacher doing? I mean, how is she getting that close to the child so that the mother?
what's the mother not
Yes,
doing?
what's the mother not doing?
Doing and the child is finding in
So
there.
that's where do's and don'ts come to play. Because if I tell my child, do this, don't do this. Now, Emilia mentioned that the people that abuses our kids at home tends to be the closest family members we have, the closest friends around us. So I went to a program, I think, and the woman was like, I want my children not to call every male they meet on the way uncle, because if you're my brother, they can call you an uncle. Yeah. If not, they should call Mr. and then auntie and all that, because those are the do's and don'ts that we have to put in place as a check for our children. Now, when your child comes back from school, irrespective of how tired you are, you should be able to know her happy moments at school and the sad moments at school, the things that went wrong and all that. When you get to know your child at that level, as soon as something goes wrong, you get to know. Now, if the child identified this uncle that comes around and is always there, you tell the child, that's your class teacher. But you don't leave the child with a class teacher and be in the kitchen whilst cooking. No. As a mother or as a parent, you should have a double eye.
If you're away, you should be aware.
You should be aware of what's going on. That is it. So if you have to leave them for a while, once a while, just check up on them. And no, it's better you show your face. So when the teacher gets to know, if the person is an abusive person, gets to know that you can badge in anytime and badge out anytime. They are extra careful how to play with your children so that they don't abuse them. But when you
the 5 minutes that you're away, he needs to know that, okay, he's seeing you face to face a few times. So when he does something, if there's an abuser, if he does something and you've seen it from afar, he will not, if he's going to, he will not, or knowing that you come in and out.
Sometimes when they know,
it's true.
Yeah, very cunning.
but sometimes when they know the type of parent you are, and they know you are not going to take such a thing from them. They
They
wouldn't
wouldn't
dare.
dare.
That is it.
They wouldn't
That
That's
is
what we
dare.
have to instill in the kids and say, this
That
is
is
my
it.
teacher. And that's the relationship I have. Is math, is English, and as soon as he is
That's all.
out, no uncle matter, because the
No
as soon as you
auntie
are
matter.
uncle, you are.
They see them as a family more.
So
Yeah.
I can be with you in a car alone, or I can be with you in a room, or you can call me to the bathroom and say, oh, come and help me
There was
do
a time
my bra or whatever, and then
You should be able. Okay, sorry.
invite my boys, my small boys, teacher home. Because the bond that was being created, I really didn't like it. Every time he comes back from school and then he was, I like Mr. Atta. Mr. Atta has been sending me, Mr. Atta has been giving me money.
Whoa.
Then let's also surprise Mr. Atta. Why don't we also prepare something and invite him home? And he was very happy that the teacher was coming home. So we invited him. And the first time I saw the man, in fact, I made a decision. So the next step was to go to the school.
Mother
and
intuition.
tell them that they should just advise the teacher to stay a bit, give a little bit interval.
What are the signs
The
you
children.
saw that made you take that decision?
I saw that the
Help
kid
us
was
as
getting
parents.
so acquainted with the teacher.
But he just walked into your home.
He mentioned,
So when he walked into your home, what made you go to the school to tell the school authorities? And then break the bond between my son and this teacher? I believe there's something you might have
yes,
seen.
the joy, I think that face that the boy kept on and then his emotions and then his behavior at that particular time made me think that no, it's too much. It shouldn't, teacher pupil
Shouldn't have that relationship.
shouldn't go beyond certain limit. It shouldn't
And it's
get-
a male teacher and
yes,
a male.
male teacher. So I had to, even
If he doesn't have bad intention,
I have to stop it.
that is it.
Amelia, don't you think you overly reacted to the teacher's approach?
Well, that would be somebody's idea or something, but for my child to go to school and eat with a teacher, we were not doing that. At our time, we were very much afraid of our teachers. But for my child
But it's
to
not
go to
so
school,
nowadays.
eat with the teacher, run errands, and always, getting that feeling of
always
being with a
excited.
teacher.
And this is a male teacher.
It wasn't the appearance. I just saw him, though he was a bit shabby and all that.
So on a usual day, you wouldn't have your child seated at one place. But then the day the teacher came,
My boy
He was
is an
comforted.
100% extrovert. So he can't sit at one place. But when the teacher was around, he sat throughout with me.
He was excited to have the teacher in the house. So he wanted to
and
be
I am
himself.
thinking you
prompted
can
me was-
team
I
up
was
with the
only-
teacher.
Yes, I was only being careful because what prompted me to do that was anytime I tried to badge him, anytime I come in, they tend to stop and then get back to their
wow.
homes. When I'm away, you could hear them.
Giggling and all that. Wow.
Some of the teachers get too friendly with the
With the
kids, where they don't
kids,
know the boundaries. That this is my
Actually,
teacher.
I didn't
I have to
think
learn.
that far, but I decided to just.
Maybe you were being
But I think it has nothing to do with jealousy for me. It has nothing to do with jealousy for
you have to
me.
be careful.
Because you can identify them, the rape, the abusers, you can identify them by face.
It's just a
So
red flag. Extra care for your child.
extra,
concern.
that is it.
It's
So
a red
Abuse is
flag,
not
it's a
just
no-no.
Yeah,
It
but
builds
Different
concern.
ways, yes.
I don't know who that person is. So whoever comes around my child should be a suspect for me.
Wow.
So
He's a stranger.
that is it. He's a stranger. That's why I said I play by the rules of do's and don'ts.
So people
So
don't do good
if
anymore?
people do that, if you're teaching my child, you are there to teach the child. I should be able to tell my child that when your teacher is there to teach you, he should stick to the board. You stick to your table and the book. There should be that distance.
The children spend more time with the teachers than they do spend with us. From Monday to Friday, your child is in school. Those of us who work on regular basis, we know the time we pick our kids up, sometimes around 6 o'clock, and then the whole day is spent with them.
That's the more reason why I should be extra careful.
It's a replacement for a parent and falls on the teacher as a replacement.
I do not want any teacher to replace my child as a parent.
A teacher shouldn't replace you.
Me, in the life of my child.
Shouldn't create that vacuum in the child.
That is why I am trying so hard to let the child know the difference between a parent and a teacher. If we're able to do that, it's not that we're overreacting or exaggerating, but we're looking out for the abusers, and we're trying so hard.
Realize we like fun teachers. Growing up in school, we were all close to fun teachers.
And we hate strict teachers.
But right now, that's what teachers can. But after a while, I have seen cases where my mates, these fun teachers have had stuff to do with the girls, and it was known. So for all you know, this male teacher is being very friendly with her son, and I don't want to say something.
At first I thought so, but
You know what I'm saying? No, unless you have grown men. Grown men, you see a little boy.
for the man to come home and say,
Do you understand what I'm
I my teacher. The same food.
That's true.
Just a parent, child woman, he has built a relationship with the teacher. Let's accept the fact that we parents also play a role. We are talking about all factors that lead to abuse. These are some of the factors. Parents, as parents, we are too busy. We are too busy to make time for our kids. And then kids love attention. They meet someone and the person expresses a little attention. And that attention wins their hearts.
To them.
That attention means so much to them. You know what means? Something little means a lot to a child. So you might overlook it and say, oh, I missed his probably birthday.
Speech and prize day at school and all that.
Coordinate the birthday celebration. So once the teacher is there to coordinate it and you are at work and then you missed it, the bond is building. We can't fault the children. That is our fault.
We all have favorite teachers in school.
We all do have.
I will tend to entrust some of our responsibilities into the hands of the teachers. So should we do that as parents?
Looking at the way things are going, we need to draw the line.
That is it.
But at the same time, you need
A teacher has to be a teacher. A parent has to be a parent. Now, in as much as I'm a busy parent, let me take it from this angle. I should be the super busy parent at home, who is always. I should always be the available parent for my child whenever the child needs me, because that is it. The most available parent for a child is me as a mother. I am playing my role as a mother. I should put in the 100% I put in my work should be the 100% I put in my child's upbringing. So when I'm looking at that is at the end of the day, I want to build something good for my child. If I only have 30 minutes at home, it should be the best quality time the child should have. If I can run from the workplace briefly just to pick up my children or prepare dinner for them and to find out the kind of homework they are, even if they can even do it, look through it. So what's that? What happened today? Whilst we're cooking, we're talking about all these things. It brings out the bonding. So you're telling the child that I am the superwoman behind you. I am the only person that can protect you. Whenever you find yourself in any problem, situation, don't hesitate. I should be the
even if you are wrong, come and tell
I should be the first point of call. Now, it's what you just said, even if they are wrong. So that means we should be careful how we judge them when they are wrong. Judge them with love.
Come and say, Mommy, I did this, or Daddy, I did this, in front of that's people. Do you know, there was another story of a group of kids in a school, and this parent was close to the kids. The kids will always come to the parents, and there was this time one of the boys came to the parents and said, Auntie, look. And I looked at the boy's arms, and the boy had scratches on his arms. Wow. So I said,
how did it happen?
How did you end up with this? So he was like, oh, it's the teacher. One particular teacher that you mentioned. And I said, but so what? And then all the boys were like, look at all of us. Whoa. So when the teacher comes to the class and the child is doing something like that, because they are not allowed to cane the kids, he will grab the child like this
and pinch them,
dip his nails into the child.
That's wickedness.
So the boys of the class, not only that, all the classes that the teacher taught had marks on them. And when you ask the children, have you told your parents? They'll be like, no, because maybe the child did something in class that was not good. The teacher cannot beat the child, so he will do something. But because the child knows that it's wrong, he will not come and tell you. But the teacher should not be doing what he's doing.
Not at all. The child is already feeling guilty.
The children's parents were in the school.
Really?
Teachers there. I said, well, how? You not told your parents? Yeah, you not told your parents. So all of a sudden you go to the school and the children are not talking to you because the parents have said, this teacher was fired because of this thing that this woman went to see. But you are abusing the freaking children.
Yes. You see how society is not helping.
Yes.
And
my child will come and tell me that my teacher dug his hands in my nails into. Regardless of whatever you do. You are not supposed, if I want to do that, let me do it. But not you. You cannot lay your hands on my child. I'm sorry. Physically, emotionally, is such a no-no. It gets me all tense. So the kids have to be able to talk to you. If they can't talk to you, then that's what's going to happen. They're going to be abused.
Somebody
yes.
outside.
Yeah. And it will probably even be the person that's going to abuse them. They will be the ones that will listen to your children.
And they take advantage of their vulnerability, and then they do what you don't expect them to do.
That is
to your
it.
child.
That
so
is
let's
it.
try as much as possible as parents to be there, listen to our kids, not to judge them wrongly. These are all factors that lead to child abuse. Exposing our kids to content beyond their ages.
The internet.
Can we say this also leads to an abuse?
Oh,
Emilia,
yes.
what do you think?
Oh yes, definitely.
Content.
Nowadays on the internet, you have all these pop-ups. These adverts that come up, and you see somebody with nothing on, and your child is doing something, and then you see this pop-up, and you're like, what? So the internet, you have to also look at what nowadays is online learning. So maybe when they have their laptop or their whatever, they'll say, oh, I'm doing homework. And you don't even know what they're doing. We have teenagers, they're probably watching things that they're not supposed to watch. You're supposed to be doing assignments. What are you doing looking at that? And then from there you go to school and you're looking at your female teacher going,
And I think from time to time we need to be checking on.
I think I worked in a school sometime back.
Phones and laptops and all these things.
yeah, we didn't have
And
that.
I think
What they call yourself, your landline is off. It will be on there. Nobody's calling their house.
I think you should be with them. I mean, especially when they are on their homework, just sit by them and then
Always make it a
watching
point.
what they do on the internet and all that.
make it
I
a point.
seized my boy's phone, the second one. He is 14. I seized the phone based on just a little action that he did. I went to his room to check on him because he was in the room all
Day.
afternoon. So I just clicked in, I didn't knock. And he was with the phone, and I said, you are learning and you are still with the phone, so let me have it. And quickly, I
wants
saw
to
him
delete.
doing something.
Closing the.
He was insisting and
You
then
needed to
trying
close something just
before
first.
giving it to me. So I got the phone and I said, this is the last time. Until you finish your BEC, you are not having the phone.
Wow.
So the laptop is now your friend, and I will be with you. So most at times,
But you know, the laptop too, they have the same application.
The same thing, the pop-ups also comes.
his laptop is always with me when he goes back to school. And at
So you
times
can
when he's
monitor.
studying, I've told him to study at the dining table, not in his room.
Okay, so for the laptop is out. You can see the things here.
So time to time I'll just go and then.
For me, I like to do random checks. You're on your phone, I'll be like, let me see.
So I think that helps.
I'll just say, let me just see. Who are you talking to? Which boy or which girl? Let's read together. Or when you come from school, I say, what happened today? Anything interesting? I want to know. Tell me what, be it subject. You want the
Even if there is nothing to tell.
Yes, even if there's nothing to tell, you want to hear the child saying something, even if it's a bad day. Okay, my teacher, or I got punished or whatever. Let them be able to tell you.
What happened?
So when they feel something strange, they can come and approach you and say to you, if your child is not close to you.
We see have to
Adam, you know what? Just as AC and Emilia said, we have to be parents who are not just there, but we should be parents who are available. AC is able to just bump in and bump out, like you don't know when money is coming in, so you always need to get your act on point. So you know that mommy can just bump in and bump out. Mommy will always find out what's going on with you in school, at home. She said, so that way you're able to monitor the child and know when the mood swing and when the child change from who the child used to be and who the child is no longer is. That is what we have to look out for. You can't just be a parent. Even if it is 10 minutes you can spend with your child, it should be the best moment anyone ever can give that child. Your child should be able to tell people that if somebody said, do this and I'll give you this, and no, my mother can give me the best, more than what you can give me.
I say, someone will say, oh, you're handsome. He was like, I know. Then they'll be like, but how did you know? My mom tells me all the time.
You see, so that way indirectly you're building a self-confidence. Yeah. So the child can be able to tell this person. And the abusive people, the difficult aspect of it is where they threaten the kids. They threaten them and tell you, don't do this. If you tell anyone, you will die, you will do this. So that is where a parent have to make sure that if somebody tells you you will die, tell the person, my mom said, I won't die, and I'm going to tell my mom. So that is it. An abuser can just abuse your child even in front of you without you knowing. So we just have to be careful. We have to be watchful of our environment and know the people we bring into our home and into our environment or into our circles.
And
so
I think we also have to know what to say to our children in front of people. Or how to treat our children in front of.
Don't scold your children to please an outsider.
Yes. Because they also tend to copy.
They go into their
shell
as well.
to your
Exactly.
child. So we shouldn't give them that.
It is said, time heals all wounds. A child has been abused. The child has endured the abuse from childhood, growing up to adulthood. Is this child going to be healed? There are consequences of abuses. Do we think it's enough time for the child to have healed from the abuse? Or there are things that we can do to help an abused child? Let's look at the consequences of an abuse, because we know that saying is just a saying, but then the reality is that I think some people never heal when they are abused.
That's what I was going to say. That I think
the abuse,
it always stays
the abuse is never healed.
It doesn't heal.
I think so. I think so.
Like that, I think sometimes some of them end up being timid.
They're timid.
When
They grow away from society. They don't express themselves
also
well.
grow up to be abusers themselves because of what they have endured. Yes, they end up extending that to.
Especially when the abuse lasts for a longer period without anyone knowing, and a continuous abuse from different angle, not just from one person. So that child grows to know that, oh, life is all about abusing people. It brings them joy and fulfillment, because that is what they saw the people do. The one that abused them is always smiling. So he feels that, or he or she feels that, oh, okay, that's the only, because anytime the child is alone, or the adult, that child that grows into adult is alone, he's not happy. It plays back. So okay, so what can I do to bring some joy to my life? I have to abuse someone to be able to be happy or something.
Someone did it to me and went on
why can't I do it to the person?
Exactly.
They'll think it's okay. Just because they were not, or maybe they spoke and then nobody listened, or they were lying. They say, oh, you're lying. So.
Such people lose their confidence. Totally. It's very difficult to bring them back to their feet.
I think we also need to let them know that it's not just physical touching. It's also a lot to do with the mind.
A scar in the mind.
Always has to do with the
And
mind.
sometimes even calling a child is an abuse.
Yes.
And children grow up and in the workplace they are all over the place giving instructions, making sure that everybody is adhering to the instructions they are giving out.
Thinking it's normal.
That is it.
But it's not normal at all.
Yeah, I think all forms of abuse end with the mind.
Exactly. It's all in the mind.
The biggest abuse is the mind, because everything you do to the child, you molest, you beat, you maltreat, you embarrass. Embarrassment is also an abuse.
I heard about this story that happened in real life. There was a child who did something wrong, and then usually back then when the child does something wrong, they scold the person publicly. So in order to avoid being scolded publicly, the person committed suicide.
Can you imagine?
So you see the consequence, how far someone can go because of abuse. It can lead to death.
Parents, let's take care of our kids.
Yeah. So now let's come to identifying when our children have been abused. Some are very good actors, like they are abusers. They can keep it in and not show signs for you to know they have been abused. Some can come openly and tell you. But what do you do when a child has been abused and doesn't come to you to tell? And it's also very difficult. What are some of the signs? What are the things you can see or the child's action that can tell you that this child has been abused? Amelia, you have 3 boys. What are some of the signs you can share with us?
If you are lucky and the abuse is physical, definitely you're going to see bruises and other things. But if it's emotional, you know your child better than any other person.
That is when you decide to know your child.
Your child is an extrovert or an introvert. You know him better. You've been with him. So if the child starts withdrawing from you, being so quiet, being so reserved, I mean, then you should know that emotionally or somebody is doing something that the child is really affecting the child. You have to pay much attention.
And it could even be a sign of sickness. You wouldn't know. The child doesn't want to go to the hospital. They will not come and tell you because they're not open with you to say, oh.
Yeah.
That is it.
To go to the hospital.
And when they are afraid, when they are afraid, and you know that my child used to be very bold and open, runs around, and suddenly when he sees people around, that's where parents when people come to the house and parents start introducing them as family, this is your uncle and things, and they start hiding, you should know that something has gone wrong. Something has gone wrong with my child.
How would you identify? You pick up your child every day from school. The child is bubbly, but then there's this particular
I've had
thing.
instances where my kids would cry every day before they go to school.
Wow.
Not because, that was because we were in a different country. They didn't understand the language, and the teacher did not have the patience.
Can you imagine?
Because they're strictly Anglophone kids, and then you take them to a Francophone country, and they can't speak French. And the teacher is losing the temper on the children. Every time they wake up in the morning,
they're so scared.
They go to school.
They're scared.
I had to pull my kids out of the country and come back to where they were comfortable.
And you as a parent, you see you're an observant parent. So you were able to identify what were the causes and why they didn't want to go to school. Now
do you know that there are instances where parents can just say, oh, this is my child, talking to another woman or another parent, oh, my child has changed. I don't even know what is wrong with him. And she's going to school now, she cries. I don't know. I'm sure the change of school. Investigate what is wrong. That babbly child that always want to go to school.
Or some people say, oh, God has listened to my prayers. My extrovert child is now well behaved.
Probably being beaten on his
You
backside.
have no idea what is going on.
And you're not going to show
something wrong. Yeah.
Wow. There are a lot of things that are happening to kids.
And we need to help them.
And parents are not aware because they decide not to be part of it. I feel that, from when it comes to abuse, I'm a bit emotional about it. And I always want to, whether the child is wrong or not, I always defend the child. Children are children.
You're the parents. You have to defend them regardless of whatever situation.
Children are children. You don't say that, oh, he should have told me and he didn't.
No. You are the...
It is not his responsibility to tell you what is going on with him. But it is your duty.
Approachable. How can the child...
It is your duty as a parent to find out whatever it takes to find out what is going on, the mood swing, the child being a child who is always there, out there, today is hiding and all that. What happened? It is your duty to find out.
And once you find out, Essie, how can you help an abusive child?
Well, first of all, you have to try and build a relationship with your child if the relationship is not already there. Assure the child that everything is going to be okay. It's okay for them to tell you what really happened. If they don't really tell you what happened, be it physical, emotional, or whatever it is, you will never get past it. They have to be able to say, okay. So you talk to them, let them do things that take their mind off. Fun things, do things with your child. It's just reassuring. Reassure the child because, like you said, it never heals.
Yeah, and in this part of our world where we don't know the use of a psychologist.
And we don't have that here. There's grandmother who will tell you, oh, don't worry, he will not do it again. You can't go and say this because
you can't even take the person to. Oh, can you imagine?
You can't go and tell somebody that a priest abused me. You can't go and tell your mom that my priest abused me.
Your mother will even allow you to report it.
No stories like that.
Yeah.
Or a father abusing a child. You can't talk about this. It stays in the family. So when you start keeping things in the family, you end up destroying the life of the children in the family.
It's true.
In the family.
I think just before we got on set, I read about something that was a bit disturbing about a father who, when he was growing up, he used to insert his fingers into the private part of his female cousins. And then now he's married with children. Before he got married, he told his wife he wouldn't like them to have he wouldn't like them to have daughters. He only wanted sons.
Because he knew what he had been doing.
He has 2 sons and then he has a daughter. The daughter is very young. And the wife approaches the man after hearing that this is what he used to do growing up. And the man has this guilty look all over his face.
And I think that it didn't start from
something caused, it started from somewhere. So we just need to be extra careful, try all what we think will work best for an abused child.
The VLM Talk Show.
Hello viewers, it's been an interesting discussion with lots of revelations. Essie, what's your final take on the topic?
Well, my advice is for the parents. I feel that, like we are all saying, the main thing, communication is paramount. So my advice to you is build your relationship with your child. Let your child know that you love them, assure them, reassurance, and always find out what is on your child's heart.
Emilia, your final words?
All right, my advice to mothers out there is never too late. I mean, even if it's late, there's something we can do. Let's get too close to our children. Give them much love. And then I think everything. We should also be careful not to be shouting at them in front of people. And I think we will pave a way for them.
Thank you, Emilia. Juliet?
I think that the one who is abused, it's difficult to get through it. It lasts with you. It's a memory that you take along with you as you grow. But I think with help outside your home, seeking counseling and seeing the psychologist or something can also help. So let's try as parents to help our children seek help outside and then help them grow to become the happy kids we always want them to be.
Thank you all. Abuse really hurts and it can lead to death. Sometimes you have to expose the kids to reading helpful materials. VLM is doing this book donation drive and we advise and encourage each and every one of you to donate to support our cause. This is what we do at VLM, and this talk show is sponsored and powered by VLM. See you on our next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The VLM Talk Show. Coming to you
post right now. It's freaky. We're taking a post right now. It's